Defend me, human. The alien princess was taken aback by his unexpected force. The unexpected guardian. The crystalline spires of Zirion's royal palace pierced the violet sky as Captain Marcus Vale stepped off the transport shuttle. 3 months of diplomatic training hadn't prepared him for the planet's ethereal beauty or the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Earth's survival depended on this alliance. Captain Vale, a melodic voice interrupted his thoughts. The Emperor awaits. Marcus followed the attendant through corridors that hummed with bioluminescent energy. He'd been briefed on Zirion customs, but seeing the blend of organic architecture and advanced technology left him awestruck. His mission was simple: serve as military attaché while negotiations proceeded. What he didn't expect was the commotion that erupted from the palace gardens. Screams pierced the air. Without thinking, Marcus sprinted toward the chaos, his combat instincts overriding protocol. In a moonlit grove, he saw her, Princess Lyanna, cornered by 3 masked assailants. Her silver hair whipped around her face as she wielded an energy blade with practiced grace, but she was outnumbered. Marcus didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the nearest attacker. His enhanced human strength caught them by guard. The assassin crumpled under his assault. Lyanna's amethyst eyes widened as she watched this stranger fight with unexpected ferocity. "Behind you," she warned, in an accented English. Marcus spun, blocking a blade meant for his spine. Together they moved in unlikely synchronization, she with elegant precision, he with raw power. When the last attacker fled into the shadows, they stood breathing heavily, studying each other in the pale moonlight. "You're the human envoy," she said, not quite a question. Her gaze traveled over him with undisguised curiosity. "I didn't expect that we could fight," Marcus offered, unable to suppress a slight smile. "That you would risk yourself for me." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the subtle constellation pattern in her skin that glowed faintly. The touch sent electricity through him, not painful, but intensely alive. "Thank you, Marcus Vale, though I fear you've just made yourself a target."
Shadows of conspiracy. The palace medical bay hummed with soft healing frequencies as Lyanna personally tended to Marcus's wounds. Her touch was gentle yet clinical, but he noticed how her fingers lingered against his skin. "You shouldn't be here," Marcus said quietly. "A princess treating a human soldier will cause talk." "Let them talk." Lyanna's defiance sparked in her eyes. "Those assassins weren't random criminals. Someone in the court wants me dead before the alliance is signed." Marcus caught her wrist gently as she applied regenerative gel to his shoulder. "Then we need to find out who." For a moment they stayed frozen, her pulse racing under his fingers. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Lyanna pulled away first, but not before he saw the flush spreading across her neck. Over the following days, Marcus shadowed her under the pretense of additional security. They investigated together, stealing moments in hidden alcoves to share information. Each meeting brought them closer, their professional boundaries blurring. Late one night, Lyanna summoned him to her private chambers. Marcus found her on the balcony, bathed in the light of Zirion's 3 moons. "I've discovered something," she said, but her voice wavered. "My father's advisor, Zenthar, he's been meeting with extremist factions who oppose any alliance with Earth." Marcus moved beside her, close enough to feel her warmth. "We need to find out who." For a moment they stayed frozen, her pulse racing under his fingers. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Lyanna pulled away first, but not before he saw the flush spreading across her neck. "Tomorrow night," she whispered against his mouth. "Zenthar will be at the military summit. We can search his quarters then." "Together," Marcus said, promising, sealing it with another kiss.
The dance of diplomacy. The grand ballroom shimmered with floating light crystals as delegates from 12 systems gathered for the ceremonial feast. Marcus stood at attention in his dress uniform, but his eyes tracked Lyanna as she glided through the crowd in a gown that seemed woven from starlight itself. They'd found damning evidence in Zenthar's quarters, communications with terrorist cells, plans to sabotage the peace talks, and, most disturbing, orders for Lyanna's assassination. but they needed to be careful about revealing it. "You clean up well for a soldier," Liana's voice whispered in his ear as she appeared beside him. "You're going to blow our cover," he murmured back, though he couldn't help but smile. "One dance," she said, taking his hand. "Even enemies dance at these gatherings. No one will suspect." The music was alien to his ears, but Liana guided him, her body pressed close to his. Around them, other pairs swirled in elaborate patterns, but Marcus was aware only of her, the way her breath hitched when he pulled her closer, how her fingers tightened on his shoulder. "I've been thinking," she said softly, "about what happens after we expose Zenthar, after the alliance is signed." "Tell me," Marcus urged, spinning her gracefully. "I want to request you as permanent liaison, keep you here with me." Her eyes met his, filled with hope and fear. "Is that foolish?" Before Marcus could answer, the lights suddenly dimmed. Marcus's combat instincts flared. Something was wrong. He pulled Liana behind a pillar just as energy bolts seared through the space where they'd been standing. "Zenthar knows!" Liana gasped. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Zenthar's loyalists had moved early, attempting a coup. Marcus and Liana fought their way through the pandemonium, covering each other with practiced ease. In an alcove behind the throne, they caught their breath. "We need to get to your father," Marcus urged. Liana grabbed his face, kissing him fiercely. "If we don't survive this—" "We will," he promised against her lips. Your skin glowed brighter, and she pressed something into his hand, a crystal pendant. "This marks you under royal protection. Whatever happens, you're one of us now." Together they plunged back into the fray, fighting not just for the alliance, but for a future where their love might exist openly. Marcus had never felt more alive, more certain of his purpose than with this remarkable woman at his side.
Hearts across worlds. The ancient runes beneath the palace provided temporary sanctuary. Marcus held Liana close as they caught their breath, her body trembling against his. They'd managed to warn the Emperor, but Zenthar's forces had taken control of the communications array, cutting them off from reinforcements. "You're hurt." Marcus noticed blood, silvery rather than red, seeping through her dress. "It's nothing," Liana protested, but winced when he carefully examined the wound. They found shelter in a hidden chamber, its walls covered in luminous hieroglyphs telling stories of Zerion's past. Marcus tore strips from his uniform to bandage her injury, his hands gentle despite their strength. "Your people will come for you," Liana said, watching him work. "Earth's fleet." "I'm not leaving without you," Marcus interrupted firmly. "You have to. If you stay, if they discover what we've become to each other—" She touched his face, memorizing every detail. "Zenthar will use it to destroy any chance of peace." Marcus captured her hand, pressing it to his heart. "Then we changed the game. Your father saw the evidence we gathered. He knows the truth about Zenthar. But the council will have to accept that times are changing." He drew her into his arms, careful of her injury. "I love you, Liana. Not as a human loves an alien, but as a man loves a woman, completely, without reservation." Tears traced silver paths down her cheeks. "You beautiful, reckless fool. Don't you understand? I love you too. That's why I need you safe." Their kiss was desperate, passionate, filled with everything they couldn't say. Marcus felt her skin's luminescence pulse in time with her heartbeat, responding to his touch like a symphony of light. In that moment, their differences meant nothing. There was an explosion. There was an explosion that shook the ruins. Zenthar's forces had found them.
United we stand. The palace courtyard became a battlefield as loyalist forces clashed with Zenthar's rebels. Marcus and Liana emerged from the ruins together, their bonding marks glowing visibly. His skin now bore faint constellation patterns matching hers, while her eyes held flecks of Earth's sky blue. "Abomination!" Zenthar roared when he saw them. You've contaminated our princess with human weakness. No, Liana's voice rang with authority. I've chosen strength through unity. The Emperor's guards had rallied, but the fight remained balanced on a knife's edge. Marcus and Liana fought as one, their bonding allowing them to anticipate each other's moves perfectly. Where he struck with power, she danced with grace. They were poetry in motion, a living symbol of what the alliance could achieve. The tide turned when Earth's diplomatic vessel appeared overhead, responding to a signal Marcus had managed to send. But instead of weapons, they broadcast something else. Recordings of Zenthar's treachery, his communications with terrorists, his plans to destroy both worlds to maintain his power. Faced with undeniable proof, Zenthar's supporters began laying down their arms. The advisor himself made a desperate last attack, charging at Liana with an energy blade. Marcus moved without thinking, shielding her with his body. The blade pierced his shoulder, but he didn't fall. The bonding had changed him, made him stronger. Together, he and Liana disarmed Zenthar, their combined strength overwhelming him. As guards led the traitor away, the Emperor approached them. Marcus braced for condemnation, but the monarch's expression was thoughtful. You've bonded with her. An ancient ritual I thought forgotten. Father, Liana began, but he raised a hand. You've proven that our peoples can be more than allies. They can be family. He placed a hand on Marcus's uninjured shoulder. Captain Vale, you saved my daughter, exposed a traitor, and showed courage beyond measure. The council will protest, but I recognize your union. The courtyard erupted in mixed reactions, but Liana pulled Marcus into a kiss that silenced doubt. When they parted, she smiled brilliantly. You realize what you've done, she teased. You're stuck with me now, forever. I can think of worse fates, Marcus replied, pulling her close again. 6 months later, their wedding became the first interspecies ceremony broadcast across both worlds. Marcus stood in a uniform that incorporated Zerion designs, while Liana wore a dress that sparkled with Earth diamonds and Zerion crystals. As they exchanged vows before a mixed crowd of humans and Zerions, Marcus thought about how unexpectedly his mission had evolved. He'd come to negotiate peace, but found something greater. Love that transcended worlds, and a future where differences were celebrated rather than feared. When he kissed his bride, the crowd erupted in celebration, and the alliance between Earth and Zerion was sealed not just in treaties, but in the beating of two united hearts. The end.